Alright, so let's talk about the new Flame/Physical unit, GU, to where she is an amazing support for Flame. But do note that this was tested on the test server, so you may get better results than I did. But this is what you need to know before you row. Bringing us to her main mechanics, and since she's a support, you don't need to worry about her normal or dodge attacks. But you can fly by jumping in the air, doing a normal attack and holding. But there are multiple characters in the game that can do the same thing and can get you to places much faster. Bringing us to her skill, which is one of her strongest abilities, but it does have a lot of constraints tied to it. First off, you need stacks of decisive placement, and the main way how you get these is by doing her discharge or creating summons using things like Plotty's skill. But now you need to quickly summon the go pieces so that way you can take advantage of her secondary skill, Half Piece Advantage, which is activated automatically 10 seconds after the skill is active, but it does more damage based off the amount of go pieces you're able to summon on the board. Due to all the constraints in the time that you're in the skill, you're usually better off just to avoid this. But if you have low ping and you're able to summon a lot of go pieces during the skill duration, you could consider adding this into your rotation. Bringing us to her discharge, which is the main thing that you're going to be using her for. She summons a zone that does AoE damage for 30 seconds, and while the zone is active, the more summons that you do inside the zone increases its damage. On top of that, boosts the flame damage of your entire team. Both of these effects can stack up 8 times, capping out to where you can do an extra 400% attack per second and getting a 20% flame damage boost, making this perfect for Plotty to where all she needs to do is activate her skill to get 8 summons on the field. Bringing us to her special features to where she is a dual element character, but mainly she is a buffer for flame. The main benefit that she gets from this dual element is fusion of mass and flame to where she can take advantage of your best physical or flame gear. And being a dual element, of course she has physical and flame resonance. Her extra skill is Central Nexus to where every time you deal damage with her weapon, you just do additional damage. Bringing us to her trait, which is okay, but most of the time you're not going to be using this, since you're mainly going to want to use your main DPS's preferred trait. So now let's go ahead and talk about her playstyle, to where mainly you're just going to activate her discharge to buff your flame team and then switch to your main DPS. Hopefully one that can generate summons. Bringing us to her Ascensions, to where you really have access to her full kit at 0 star, with 1 star barely being a DPS increase, since all it does is provide a quality of life feature and buff the skill. 3 stars where you finally get a DPS increase by decreasing the target's flame resistance by 15%. 5 star allows you to take less damage while your skill is active and allow you to cheat death 1 time while the skill is active. But since most people are not going to be using the skill, this is not the greatest ascension. And 6 star allows the discharge flame stacks damage to go from 2.5% to 5%, capping out at 40%. This is by far her strongest ascension, but do note that if you are using a main DPS that does not create summons like Annabella, this does nothing for you. So now let's go ahead and discuss her teams to where she can work with any flame unit, but she desperately wants a main DPS that can create summons, like Plotty or Leoa. So our strongest team would consist of Plotty, GU, and Asuka, making this team even stronger if you inhibit Plotty with Nani. The rotation for this team is quite simple to where ideally you have a double discharge. You want to start out by casting Asuka's skill, then activate GU's discharge and do a normal attack. Then you can activate Plotty's discharge and then activate her skill. Make sure you do 1 dodge attack while the skill is active. Once the skill ends, activate GU's discharge, cast Asuka's skill, cast Plotty's discharge into her skill, and do a dodge attack. Then simply repeat step 4 and above. The second strongest team would be Plotty, GU, and Nanyin, but this team does require higher investments, mainly needing Nanyin's 5 star. And the rotation is a bit more complex. You want to have a double discharge, and you want to start out with Nanyin's skill, and then you want to do GU's discharge into a normal attack, and then you want to activate Plotty's discharge into her skill into a dodge attack. You're going to repeat step 2 and above, but this is dependent on Nanyin and Plotty's skill, due to the fact that Plotty does the most damage in the team. So you will have 2 scenarios. If Nanyin's skill is 12 to 11 seconds off cooldown when Plotty's skill ends, then you want to do the following. You want to activate GU's discharge into a normal attack, and then you want to activate Plotty's discharge, and then you want to switch to Nanyin, and you want to normal attack attack until her skill is off cooldown, and activate her skill. Then you want to switch to Plotty and activate her skill into a dodge attack. Then you want to repeat step 2 and above once again, until eventually you come upon scenario 2. Here, it's similar to the repeated steps, with a small twist, when Nanyin skill is 18 to 17 seconds off cooldown when Plotty skill ends. So you want to activate Jiyu's Discharge into a normal attack, and then you want to activate Plotty's Discharge into her skill into a dodge attack. And then you want to activate Nanyu's Discharge into her skill. And then you want to activate Jiyu's Discharge, and then you want to activate Plotty's skill into a dodge attack, and then you repeat step 2 and above. Bringing us to our final team, Triple Flame, which consists of Jiyu, Plotty, and Faiz. And ideally you want to use Nanyin to inhibit Plotty. This team does have the lowest damage, but it's not too far off from the other two teams. And this rotation is less complicated than Nanyin's. Again, you want to have a double discharge, and you want to start out by activating Faiz's skill. Then you want to activate Jiyu's Discharge into a normal attack, and then you want to do Plotty's Discharge into her skill into a dodge attack. When Faiz's skill is off cooldown, you want to wait 3 seconds. Then you want to jump cancel Faiz's Discharge, activate her skill to blow up the field, and then activate her skill once again. Then you activate Jiyu's Discharge, do a normal attack, and activate Plotty's skill into a dodge attack. Then simply repeat step 5 and above. Which brings us to the matrices, starting with Jiyu's. Now these are strong but not a necessity. So her 2-piece greatly increases your flame attack and allows you to do additional damage every time you drop a go piece when the skill is active. Her 4-piece greatly increases final damage, and it also increases crit damage if she is in the team. Plus it has the added benefit of giving you 9 decisive stacks when entering combat. These are essentially designed to replace Nanyin's matrices. So if you are able to max these, you will see a boost in damage, but if you're only able to get a 0-star set and you already have max limited matrices like Meow's, you're better off skipping. Next we have Plotty matrices, which are going to be your go-to matrices, especially if you're using Plotty as a main DPS. Then we have Nanyin matrices, which are good to use especially if you have Nanyin in the team. But if you end up getting Jiyu matrices, since they already give final damage and crit damage, you could use other limited matrices instead of Nanyin's. Bringing us to Asuka matrices, which are really powerful as well. These were calculated as one of the highest matrices in all the teams. Then we have Meow matrices, which are really good as well. These are great to use as a filler matrices set if you don't have other flame limited matrices. Bringing us to Faiz matrices, which are really strong if Faiz is on the team. If she's not, then you might be better off using other limited matrices. And lastly, we have DPS matrices, to where these are not too far behind 0-star Jiyu matrices, especially in the Nanyin and Asuka team. But in Triple Flame, they were a bit more underwhelming. But since they were so close, you can expect other limited matrices like Zeke or Leah was to be better than these. Now you might be wondering who is a better buffer, Jiyu or Asuka. Jiyu is a better buffer at all star levels, but you have to have a main DPS that is able to create summons. If you don't, Asuka is better. But besides that, GU is free to play friendly since you just need one copy to get access to her full kit. But if you do decide to fully max her, you will see a big buff for your flame team, due to her 3-star resistance shred, her 6-star doubling your flame damage buff, and her matrices giving you a major final damage boost. For full priority, just getting one copy of GU should be enough for most. After that, it really depends on what is on your account, since the next real boost in power for her is 6-star are her matrices. But if you already have other max limited matrices, unless you're going to fully max her matrices, they may not be worth, and it's also not very worth to roll for other stars unless you're going to get 6-star. And that should be everything that you need to know before you roll. But let me know down in the comments, are you rolling for GU or are you waiting for those future characters? But other than that, I'll talk with you guys later.